Welcome everyone to the Addiction 911 show. We're very excited to be here today. Today our topic is going to be tough love. Does it really help an addict? My name is Christina Rowe and I'm your host of the Addiction 911 show and the podcast, which this will be a podcast also on iTunes and Podomatic. And we're waiting for a few more guests, but we wanted to get started. So I'm going to introduce you right now to our first guest, Rachel Simpson from Dynamic Recovery Center. And it's PHP, IOP, OP Treatment Center. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, welcome, Rachel. So great to have you here.
Thank you.
As we wait for everyone else to come in so we can start chatting a little bit about this subject. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and what exactly, how you help at Dynamic Recovery Centers.
I'm the owner of Dynamic Recovery Center, and I'm also the clinical program director. Are you hearing feedback?
I'm hearing some feedback. Yes, I'm here. It's not really feedback. It sounds like you're a little crackling a little bit. So maybe if you just go a little closer to the phone, it might be, talk more into the mic.
Is that better?
That is better.
Okay. So yes, I have one partner and we own Dynamic Recovery Center in Fort Lauderdale. We also own Dynamic Counseling Center, which is primarily outpatient practice. We've had that since 2011. And in 2015, decided to go up a notch when we were privy to kind of what was going on in the industry and wanting to make some changes and do things a little bit better than we had seen, because we've both been administrators, directors at other facilities. And so we created our own very special program. And we really do things out of the box and treat clients on an individual basis, unlike I've ever seen, because I've been in many treatment centers as a clinician, as the nurse, as a director, and what we say we do, we really do.
Wonderful.
And I think that's important. You know, there needs to be transparency. We specialize also in the LGBTQ community. Not only are we LGBTQ friendly, like a lot of treatment facilities say, we are culturally competent to treat this community. Like we are trained.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for explaining that, because that's good. That's really unique, and that's a really great feature that you offer. Something that you specialize in. We have Mark, and I'm gonna and he's gonna get this. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
Great. I'm going to just refigure us here with all different ways we can be like that. We can be like Brady Bunch. We can be so all certain ways. We'll see.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
See you.
Great. It's great. So Mark is a drug and alcohol attorney. So Mark, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone before we begin? We're waiting for some more guests to come in.
Yes, my name is Mark Astor. I'm an attorney. My office is based in Boca Raton, and I specialize in working with families and individuals who are dealing with drug and alcohol addiction issues.
Wonderful, Mark. And I was telling Rachel today our topic is going to be tough love, which is and does it really help the addict? And actually, I can put up the question here, so if anybody wants to see it. We're also going to take comments. If everybody's watching and you have any comments, and then I see we have CC podcast. Okay, CC's here. CC can hear us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be bringing you guys in and out. So you're going to be on screen and off screen, and then as you talk. So I'm going to Rachel, I'm going to move you down for a second. I'm going to bring CC in so she can say hello. Hello, Cece. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. We're so glad that you're here with us today. And I'm just playing around with this. Okay, that's good. Cece, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? You have a very interesting story of what you do for this topic today. You're an author and advocate. So tell us just real quickly about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am a former U.S. Marine, and I also am a former inmate. I was granted clemency in 2012 by Governor Rick Scott. And so I just go around now to jails and prisons, and I talk to the inmates about how to get their criminal records cleaned up, how they can get it sealed or expunged or pardoned.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you're really helping people who've been through a lot and now want a fresh start, and they need that. And it's difficult to get that after, having those the criminal records and stuff too. So that makes it very difficult.
Well, it's only difficult if you don't know the steps.
Oh,
So, yeah, if you know what to do, which I outline in my book, you can follow the steps and then be on the path to get it.
wonderful, wonderful. Okay, that is really great. That's great to know. Well, thank you, Cece. We also have, Mark Thompson is in the lobby. Mark Burns said, I don't see him in the lobby, so let him try to log in again. Mark, if you're listening, I see your comment here. We don't have him actually in the lobby. I don't see him here, so I think he might have to re-log in into the post. So let's get started. We're going to, let me just cycle everybody again. I'm going to bring up, I'm going to ask everybody the question, give everybody a chance to comment on this. So I'm going to bring Rachel back first, and I'm just going to put Mark down in here and bring her. And Rachel, I want you to comment on this let's talk about what tough love is and how the term hitting rock bottom has been used in the addiction field. So give us your take as a professional on tough love, whether you agree with it, do you feel that it's effective, or what your thoughts are on that.
I don't think that there's a blanket answer when it comes to tough love. I myself lost a 26-year-old brother to this disease.
Oh, gosh.
And so I can tell you from the family perspective,
Okay, for some reason we froze. We had a little glitch there. Let me try to bring everybody back in here. And if you got logged out, just come right back on. I think we lost Rachel in there. I see Mark's here. And if anybody else got logged out, I don't know what just happened. We're still live, but some people disappeared. So she was in the middle of telling us to see if we can get her back on in a sec. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, we just kind of did a little glitch there, which Rachel disappeared while she was speaking. So, so if anybody else who I did see their guest Karen Walsh. She was here for a second and then she disappeared. So if you guys just click that link and log back on, and just make sure that you set your cameras so your webcam can see you and like you guys did in your whatever audio system that you're using. Okay, so now that we have, we'll go back to Rachel. Let me throw the same question first to Mark and then to Cece. Mark, so what do you feel about tough love? Do you feel like hitting rock bottom is effective? Is it something you advocate, or what are your thoughts on it?
So when families typically come to me, it's sort of my legal version of rock bottom, right? They've exhausted all their other options, and they've heard about this thing called the Marchman Act, and they come to me and they're like, well, we've heard about this thing called the Marchman Act. Tell us what it is. So for me, as a lawyer, it's about giving them the ability to use the legal system to give them some options where maybe in the past they didn't realize they had options. So things like the Marchman Act, things like doing a guardianship so you can get control of medical decisions and property. And just recently, one of the other things that we're starting to work on is, especially where there's a mental health component, and that seems to be the norm these days, there's always a mental health component going on, is finding out whether or not they're eligible for some type of financial assistance from the government, Social Security benefits and disability. And that's something we're doing, we're making available now, or certainly working on. So for me, when it comes to tough love, the idea of forcing somebody into treatment, for the family is emotional. It's a difficult decision for them to make. But I tell them, listen, this doesn't get better as a disease. It's no different from any other disease. If you don't work to remedy the situation, it's going to get worse, right? They're going to continue to relapse. They're going to either end up in the criminal justice system or they're going to end up dead. I mean, that's that's it. So you have to make the decision for them because they can't do it. So in my world, tough love means, filing a Marching Act. It means filing a guardianship. So you can make the decisions for them because they're not capable of making this decision on their own. So you got to step up, and you're going to have to make them go to treatment. And when a judge tells them they're either going to treatment or going to jail, that's tough love. But better they go to jail because they won't go to treatment than they end up in the criminal justice system and end up potentially as a convicted felon, and then they end up in prison where they have far more access to drugs than they do on the street. Or worse yet, you end up with someone in the emergency room, and you lose a loved one. So to me, tough love is really making that decision where you're going to let me do my thing and get the courts involved and help you from that perspective. And I don't always know if and it's, I hate to use the word, typically it's a child, right? A young adult, right? I don't know if that son or that daughter has hit rock bottom, but
Right.
I think emotionally they're spent. The family's spent. They're all exhausted. So, I work hard to give them options and show them a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, because there is light, but you gotta put a plan together for them, and that's what I do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mark. We're gonna, that it sounds like can you hear me? Okay, I'm just going to move. We have two more people who are here, two more of our panelists, and I just want to bring them up. I see that it's both, is that Karen Walsh? I see Scott Brand and Mark Thompson. I'm going to just bring, before we're going to have Cece answer the question, I'm just going to bring Mark up, and then we'll bring Karen up. Okay, so Cece, I want you to answer this question because you have a lot of personal experience with this.
Yes, so
This is weird.
yeah, we're getting a little bit of echo here.
Yeah, we have an echo. Okay, that is strange. Hold on, guys. I don't know why this is giving us this kind of weird feedback that's going on. Cece, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what just went on. Okay, I'm putting these in. I just changed my mic system. Okay, so Cece, tell us a little bit about your experience with, you were in jail. You've lived this as a former addict, so you know firsthand whether tough love is effective or not.
Mm-hmm. I think people will sink to the level of expectation. Okay? And I see somebody over there shaking their head and saying no. But I truly do believe that. I think once the family makes up their mind what they're going to do or not do, then the addict or the person like myself, they follow that. I really do believe that. I did get in trouble, and for me, seeing my family in court, seeing my mother standing in front of that judge crying, I just knew that, that was not the way my mother raised me, and I just didn't want to put her through that again. All right, so I truly believe that people will sink to the level of expectation. So if and like Mark said, that's kind of very broad, and you have to do it on an individual basis. But I do think, some basis has to be set, so that somebody can either, hit it or miss it. But the family has to say what they want. What will they tolerate? When they get to that point, are they there? Do they let the addict know?
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Cece. I'm going to bring the question now over to Mark. So I'm just going to be muting everybody as they're not speaking, which I just did to myself. This way we don't have any feedback. So let me unmute Mark. Okay, Mark, hello, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit first before you answer the question about where you're from and how you help out people in the addiction community.
Sure. My name's Mark Thompson. I am been in the treatment field for just about 20 years. I have also been in personal recovery myself 22 years. So I've spent, a long time trying to help the sick and suffering. And, I've seen it from both sides. I've seen it from, my own personal experience as well as dealing with other people's experiences as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm just going to now just rotate so we can bring up some more people. Hear me rotate and bring up Karen. And let's see, she'll be on. And then I'm going to just put you down here and I'm going to bring up, I don't know where she went. She disappeared. Nope. Okay, let's see. No, there she is, Rachel. Okay. And this way we lost her before. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, hey, Karen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. So great. I'm glad you were able to get on. I know it's sometimes a little tech stuff goes on here because we are live, broadcasting live, so we have to expect these kind of little glitches. I know when Rachel was talking, all of a sudden she just disappeared. So we got her back. So introduce yourself, Karen, and let us know where you're from and what you do. And then the question the first question for everyone was, what is tough love? And how the term hitting rock bottom has been used in the addiction field, and what your thoughts are on that. So tell us a little bit first about yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Karen Walsh, and I work with Inspirations for Youth and Families. And most of my life's work has been with adolescents who are in rehab or struggling with drug abuse. So I'm here in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and we have anywhere between 30 and 40 children at all times in a residential setting. So we work with their families, we work with their siblings, and the definition of families can vary, as we all know, when it comes to people who are coming into treatment. The definition for tough love and rock bottom is a little bit different for kids. Rock bottom because most children that we see coming into treatment have not hit rock bottom, thankfully. But their behavior has become so problematic that their parents become concerned for their safety, for their ability to complete their education, and they're really trying to prevent the future adult addicts that will eventually, surface at 18, 22, and 24. So I won't minimize it by saying it's preventative because the disease of addiction is present, the abuse of the drugs and the threat of death is definitely present. But I think that the combination of youth and immaturity, lack of knowledge and experience in life as to what they're doing when they're combining drugs, they're quite a bit more reckless than adults are, becomes the reason why working with children is different when it comes to rock bottom. And as for tough love, definitely with kids, tough love works. They're still being parented, so the parents have more control and more opportunity to demonstrate that tough love. There's less willingness for children to go to rehab, although some do willingly, and some of them call on their own, seeking help. And then we have to work what I would call the reverse admission, which is talking to the parents after we've talked to the teenagers, which is always interesting. But the parents typically reach out first and they put down their foot. They say, these are the requirements for you to continue living in this house and having the privileges that you have. And we provide interventions as well to assist when those circumstances prevail that require it. And then children come into rehab. Tough love definitely saves their lives. And I think it's made a difference in many of the teenagers moving on, graduating school, high school, moving on to college. And we see quite a bit of success with the teenagers because of tough love.
Thank you, Karen. And now I just want to move over to Rachel, who was in the middle of us telling us tragically your brother passed away at age 26 from drug addiction, and you were explaining your thoughts on tough love and whether hitting rock bottom really works.
I'm not quite sure how much you heard from me before. So you guys were frozen and I was speaking, so I'm not sure, where did I leave off? Where did you hear me speak loud?
I think we were at the point where it's what you said about your brother, and then we kind of lost you.
Okay. So yes, I lost a 26-year-old baby brother. He was a Marine. He was a professional tennis player on his way up. Drugs got a hold of him. At the time, all we knew was tough love. That's all that my parents ever heard about, was tough love and rock bottom. And, like I said, in that case, unfortunately, it didn't work for him. And we did try. What I was explaining earlier, and I'm not sure what you heard, is that I think it's important to go case by case with families. I treat adults, and obviously very important to us is the family component, as this is a family disease, and understanding your client individually. So do they have co-occurring mental health disorders? What are some of the other issues? Now we know thyroid is part of, contributes to depression. Is that been checked? We need to understand what's going on with the client individually before we tell maybe the family, put your foot down here. Yes, and I do agree with Karen. I mean, tough love can be life-saving. I think my brother would have lost his battle with addiction either way. The only thing I say now is that I do believe coming from a place of love and respect and kindness and compassion goes a lot further than everybody just putting their, they leave the parents, or they leave their wives, or they leave their, their jobs and all of those things. And then they come, to our center, and we're then putting down the expectations and putting our feet down. And, I think there's a nuance in the way that you carry forth with what you expect from your clients. And like I said, tough love comes in all different ways. And where does the family need to be, I think has a lot to do. As clinicians, we know we want to meet our clients where they are. So you have somebody who is participating, who's doing well, who's attempting to do all the right things, who's taking the medication, but still struggling. That wouldn't be where I would tell the parent, put your foot down, say this or say that. We have to come together collectively always to find out what's going on. Are they on the wrong medication? Is there some, mental health diagnosis that has not revealed itself yet? Is there some physiological issue? So along the way, I think it's important to determine when tough love comes in. And I did speak earlier about, if you have a client, and we've all seen this down here, if you have a client who has a really, has their insurance card and they're using insurance as a revolving door, their insurance card, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get high, I'm going to use, and I'm going to go back into treatment because I know that I can. Then I think tough love definitely needs to be talked about. And what does that mean? If you're enabling your family member because they have an insurance card, and you're paying their rent every time they want to go to another facility because maybe they just heard no, and we know how that works. Hearing no is very difficult early on. But going forward, depending on how the client's behaving, do we want all clients to hit rock bottom? Absolutely not. Do some of them need to, in efforts to make their own decision about what they want for their life? Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because, when we talk about, with like from the mother or father or the wife or husband's perspective, the loved one's perspective, you're told, okay, you have to set boundaries, don't give them any money, don't, put them out on the street. And it's like it goes against the nature, especially for a mother. It literally goes against their as a mother to do something. But it's what they're told you have to do to save that child's life. But yet it doesn't always work. So I know any of the moms and parents and, people who are right now watching the show who have a loved one out there, and you're doing all these things. You're not giving them money. You're not allowing them to stay at the house. You're doing all these things. It's still not working. I'm going to throw this question over to Mark now, give him a chance and rotate everybody back in. So let me ask you, Mark, let me just put this. I'm going to bring Cece back in. And Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what would you tell a parent right now who's watching the show? What advice would you give them when dealing with this?
Well, so I think what they need to understand is they got to put a plan of action together, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest fear for them. They just don't know what to do. So, I mean, I think that there needs to be a treatment component. There needs to be an emotional component, right? Dealing with the family's issues, because this, when it comes to dealing with this issue, it's, as I tell my families, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? They've been sick for a long time. It's going to take them a long time to get well. I mean, if someone's been abusing opioids for 5 or 10 years, they're not getting better in 30, 60, 90, or even 180 days. I mean, this is a lifestyle change, and it's going to take them time to adapt to the new, their new lifestyle. And so that they need to understand that. So I think you have to give them the picture, and you have to give them the plan of action. And, at least from my perspective as a lawyer, while I can, give them the legal options, I rely very heavily on, the treatment centers and therapists to help to put all the other pieces together. Because otherwise, I mean, going into court and getting a Marchman Act or a guardianship is really sort of just an exercise of utility if you don't have the plan to then execute on, right? You've no point getting a Marchman Act order if you don't have someone to send it for treatment. Or if it's not the
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you tell us, because there may be people watching right now, because Marchman Act is native, I believe, primarily to Florida. Can you explain what the Marchman Act is for anybody who may not understand that term?
Okay, so the Marchman Act is a Florida statute. It's been on the books since 1993, but basically what it allows a family member or a guardian or a relative or a friend or basically somebody with personal knowledge, it gives them the ability to go into court and ask a judge to order their loved one initially into a 5-day period of assessment, stabilization, and detox. That period can be extended a little bit, but it's basically 5 days. And the idea is to get them stable and to get somebody to make a determination as to what is the next step. So from a legal perspective, once that is done, and to be clear, it's done on an ex parte basis, which means that the person on the other end, the respondent, isn't going to get a chance to contest it. If it's legally sufficient, in other words, it ticks all the boxes, the legal boxes, the judge is going to review it, they're going to grant it, and they're going to issue a pickup order and basically tell the local sheriff, go and get this person, this is where they are, and take them to this place so they can be assessed, stabilized, and detoxed. During that 5-day window, I'm then going to sit down, I'm going to file a second petition, which is going to ask the court to send that person to some type of treatment program based on the assessment that's being done while they're being stabilized. And that second part can become adversarial because you're taking someone's liberty away, right? You're basically forcing them into treatment. And so they get an opportunity to be heard and to contest it. And if they can't afford a lawyer, they're entitled to court-appointed counsel to contest it. But basically, it's a 2-step process done in any county in which the respondent is located, which enables you to get them into treatment. Because you got to remember, at this point, they're not capable of making that rational decision for themselves. You got to make it for them.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for explaining that. And this is just Florida. There's no other states that they may have similar types of acts, but they're called different things, I'm assuming, in different states.
I believe there are 37 other states that have some type of involuntary commitment statute. Some are for drugs, some are for alcohol, some are for mental health, some of them are for a combination. They're all over the map, and that's one of the things I've been talking about is we need some type of federal standard when it comes to involuntary commitment. But there is a lot of talk about having that happen. I mean, it's coming to I see it online. I see it in the press. People are starting to talk about these involuntary commitment statutes because if we don't intervene quickly, the problem gets worse, and then we know what the ramifications of that are. So intervening early is good, and sometimes you got to ask the courts to help you with that. I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. It's very good to know anybody who's watching the show right now and your loved one who's or yourself who not in Florida and you're not familiar with this. There are different states. You should check with your local. You can Google it in your state of if you're dealing with an addicted loved one who's out of control or going to hurt themselves. And there are some laws that can help you. And here in Florida, it's called the Marchman Act. So I'm going to thank you, Mark. I'm going to
one other quick thing.
Sure.
The thing with Marchman is because we bring so many people into treatment down here in Florida. They don't have to be a resident of Florida to be Marchman Act. If their feet touch the ground in Florida, the county in which they're located, you can file a Marchman Act petition. It doesn't matter where their state of residence. If they're here in Florida, they can be Marchman Acted.
Oh, all right. That's interesting. That's good to know. And there are so many different people flying from all over the country here to Florida for treatment. So that's important to know that we can help people. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm going to unmute Cece, and I'm going to bring up we lost him now. We have Mark, and I was going to bring you up, and I don't know where you went. He's coming in and out, our Mark Thompson. Let me bring in Karen again, and let me ask Cece now to tell, what would you tell me? You were talking before about your mother and how seeing your mother, that just broke your heart, and it is such a heartbreaking thing because addiction seems to me like, it's easy for so many people have this misconception that, and I used to have it myself, it's a choice. It's a choice. You just don't pick up that drug or you don't do it. But we forget that there's a lot of things going on. A lot of times with dual diagnosis, there's a lot of things going on with the brain disorders, all sorts of things that make somebody become an addict, and they lose control and they don't want to hurt their families.
Right.
So what would you say as far as, because since you were the addict, I'm going to ask Mark Thompson the same question because you both, have recovered. What would you tell a mother or father or a loved one right now? What do you do? They're feeling guilty about doing tough love. Do you tell them go with it, stick with it, just do it? Or what is your advice?
It really depends on the plan that you and the professionals have come up with. I think when, I forget who said that earlier, it has to be a part of the plan. And then once that plan is in place, yes, you do have to stick with it. And that can be the tough part,
And, right, and that could be the hard part. But let's say there is a plan, you have a plan, you're the mom, and they're telling you, the professionals, you need to, let this kid hit rock bottom. Don't give him any money when he calls 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't bail him out of jail. And your heart's breaking, And so as you, Cece, would say, Mom, stick with the plan. Would you tell them that?
Yes, I
even though it's going to break your heart, you can be saving your child's life.
It's because it's either, it hurts now or it breaks later.
Right. And your family, did they do tough love with you, or it was more? Okay, yes. And it worked. You're here alive today, successful author. Tell us the name of your book, by the way.
Okay, my book is called The Florida Clemency Guide. And if people email me, I'll send them the free ebook version of it. So just outlining the steps, because people don't know what to do, whether they can get their records sealed or expunged or pardoned. And those terms just are out there. So if people email me, and I guess you'll give my email at the end.
What is your email? I can put it in the comments right now.
Okay. So it's Cece, C-E-C-E, at ispeakinprisons.com.
Okay. So everybody, I'm just putting her email address fast in the comments here. I just commented, so definitely get that ebook. That would be really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Cece. I'm going to bring in Mark, because I want to, and then I'm going to ask Karen the same question. So let me just bring you guys in. We keep losing Mark, but he's back. Okay, this is Mark Thompson. And then we're going to have Karen ask the same question. So Mark, there you are. We kept losing you back and forth. You also mentioned that you were a recovering addict. Right. And so tell us what I just asked Cece some question. Did your parents do tough love with you? Because obviously you're alive, you're here, you're successful. Was that the route that they did, your loved ones, that helped you, or was that not something that was done with you and it had no impact?
it was not done with me, and the reason being is I tended to hide my addiction from my family, and to be honest, they didn't really know how bad it was getting until I was out of the house for a while, and so for me, they didn't really have to deal with it as much. But I would say that it's probably one of the more difficult aspects of my professional life. Getting a mom or a dad on the phone who are hurting or heartbroken, who are at their wits' end. What do I do? And it's been my experience that the most effective thing that I can say to them is exactly what you were just saying. When the phone rings at 3 a.m., they say, your child needs $50 to pay the FPL bill, which is, obviously not true. You got to say no. You got to say no. And I guess it's a tough situation to be in. I feel so sorry for these parents who are faced with the choice of, do I continue to support my child even though I know the things that he or she is doing could potentially kill them, or do I say no and risk allowing them to be homeless, in jail, suffer some other form of consequence which hurts them just as much? It's a rock and a hard place question.
Absolutely.
Based on my experience, the answer is there's no reason for somebody to stop as long as the safety net is always there. Why change the behavior?
That's right. It's because you feel like there's always that, like somebody once put it in, there's that pillow, you put a placing a pillow under their butt. They're not, falling hard enough. But yeah, and I'm going to want to bring Lori on, Karen, I'm sorry, I'm saying Lori. That's where I got that from. Karen, I see Scott there. If Karen can come back. Is Karen there? Or?
Well, believe it or not, she's on the campus, and there's a tough love situation we have.
Oh, wow.
Ironically.
Right.
So
Ironically. Wow.
Maybe she could come back shortly, but I just wanted to stand by and let you know that that's just the craziness of our business with teens.
Yes. Well, we're going to be here. So she wants to pop back on. I'm just going to move. I'm just rotating everybody. So I'm going to rotate you down and then rotate. But you'll still be able to see us here. And let me rotate Rachel back up to the broadcast here. And this is the thing when I think about this. Like, we're doing a little research on this as well. And there's some school of thought that says, well, addiction is a disease. So if you had somebody with cancer, you wouldn't throw them out of the house. You would not give them food. You wouldn't do all these things. So that's a lot of times it's a very confusing thing for people who love an addict because yes, it is a disease, but it's a disease that literally has all these psychological ramifications that are dealing with it. So Rachel, can you talk a little bit about that? What are your thoughts on that?
And funny enough, that was going through my head as you were speaking. I often use that analogy with families and clients, about having cancer, and it's a disease. So I think you need to look at the situation. Like I said, it's all individualized. There's the client that's in treatment, and then there's the kid or the family member that's running the streets. So if you have a loved one that's running the streets, that won't get into treatment, that has been stealing from you and family members and abusing you and taking money, tough love is absolutely the way to go. And I guess from a more clinical point of view, it's about having boundaries and very strong boundaries. I will not accept you doing drugs in my home. I will not accept you taking my car in the middle of the night to go on a drug run, or I will call the police and say that it is stolen. So I believe that tough love is a necessary evil, again, depending on the situation. And when my brother was running the streets and, not adhering to what the family would have liked to have happen, tough love was the only way to go, and it still didn't save him. So the other end of, right, and the other end of the spectrum is the client that is in treatment, who's trying, who's behaviorally appropriate, who, you know, does need cigarettes. And, you know, I'm a holistic practitioner, if nothing else, and I hate cigarettes and I hate smoke and all of that. And I'm in a consortium for cancer. So, you know, that's a no for me. But I'll tell you, when they come into treatment, that's part of their socialization, because when they're all in group and they're processing, you know, the real work happens when they go downstairs and they take their smoke break and they kind of vibe off of each other. So, you know, you have to consider exactly where the client is at. So
I think that's very good advice. Yes.
Right. So, you know, depending on the behavior of whom we're speaking about, you know, tough love has its merits. It used to be the only thing we knew. I started 25 years ago in this business. I would work with some of the best old school clinicians that were in your face. You know, you're an addict, you're this, and, you know, you're not going to be anything. For me, that does not work in treatment at this point. You know, my staff has been trained to treat people with, like I said, kindness, dignity, because they do have a disease. I'm a medical practitioner as well, so I come from the medical model. And again, if you've not tried all the things that you might necessarily need to have in place, like I said, you know, medication, behavioral modification, understanding what's really going on with the client, severe trauma, you want to look at things differently. That's not the time for the family to back out and go, you know, I'm not taking your call. I'm not going to give you money for cigarette. You know, if they're doing the right thing, I encourage the families to do the right thing. If they're in solution, I encourage the family to be in solution. If they're not in solution and they're in, you know, the other side, then I don't want the parents, the families, the loved ones to be part of the problem.
Right.
And you need to really understand that.
It's a more of a loving, tough love is what you're saying. You know, and I think that's important too. What you just said, just to reiterate what you just said was important. You said that before, you know, if they're doing, you know, it's the same thing we put the analogy back with cancer or with a disease. If somebody who has cancer, God forbid, doesn't go for treatment, doesn't go see the doctor, doesn't, you know, take care of themselves,
right?
You still love that person, but you're not going to buy them another pack of cigarettes if say they have lung cancer and they refuse to get any treatment. So it's the same thing in your head you have to think about, because I know this is just a huge issue that so many mothers and parents and loved ones deal with. You have to think about that. You got to be loving. Maybe it's the word tough love and hitting rock bottom has to be changed, that it's a loving way of putting boundaries, setting boundaries, and saying, if you're going to help yourself, we're going to help you. If not, we'll love you, but we just cannot participate in your behavior. We can't give you money. We can't do all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to be informed. Again, I believe it's individualized for every person that we come across.
Right.
You know, I'm sure that Mark has seen 1,000 times, you know, at the end of the day, some people do need to be in jail because that's the safest place for them. You know, right. Of course, they say that they can get high there, but they're not going to overdose in jail. I mean,
that's going to be what I want to segment into right now. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to bring out Mark and Cece right now to talk about, because of their experiences with prison and the ultimate extreme tough love. So I'm just going to thank you so much, Rachel. I'm just going to bring you down and Cece back in, because I know they both have experience with this. So Mark, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, it's obviously jail is the ultimate version of the extremely, before death, it would probably be the worst way you could hit rock bottom is to be spending, you know, time in jail, or be put into isolation in jail when you're an addict. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're now representing addicts in court. So are you saying to the families and to the judge, don't put them in jail, or has there been times when jail was the best thing for them?
So you know, it really depends. I sort of have my own sort of personal benchmark, and I in my head, I'm saying to myself, is this person savable, right? I mean, are we at a point where we can reverse what's been going on? It's, you know, Rachel brought up cancer, right? I mean, you get to a certain stage, I think it's stage 4, where the person's not savable anymore. And I think to a certain extent that, you know, that works too with addiction. There's a certain point where you just can't reverse the trend. They've been so addicted for so long, unless dramatic steps are taken, it's not going to change. So, I mean, my sort of benchmark is, are they savable? So when I'm in court and I've got a judge who wants to throw somebody in either in the county jail or state penitentiary, if I think that based on what they told me, if there's some plan of action that can be put together that the defendant, who's now my client, right, is willing to engage in, then I'm willing to make that pitch to the judge. But at some point, the judge is going to say, listen, my overriding responsibility is to make sure society is protected. And if you're breaking into houses and cars and stealing stuff to feed a habit that you're either not capable of addressing or not willing to address, even if I force you to, then I don't have any choice. I got to put you in jail, or I got to put you in the state penitentiary to make sure that you don't commit more crimes, because I got to protect society from you. And so, there comes a point in time where the person's not savable. And even if you think they're savable, the judge was like, listen, it's too far gone, and I'm not willing to take that chance. So, let them get detoxed and stabilized and recovered in a locked up facility. And then when they get back out, if they're willing to go to treatment, well, great. I'll be there cheering on the sideline. But at some point in time, you just, jail is maybe the best place for them, because they're just not, you just can't. And maybe this is just, it's not, maybe they're just not ready for it. I mean, there's a number of factors, but at some point they're just more of a candidate for custody than they are for treatment. And that's just the bottom line sort of thing.
And, now just putting it over to Cece, this is exactly what happened to you, right, Cece? You credit jail with saving your life, right? I mean, basically, of with your addiction. So tell us a little bit about that from your perspective, as somebody who actually lived through it.
Okay, so jail is for up to a year, and prison is a year and a day more. So, not that jail is easy, but, basically you can sail through that. You're in a county facility. But when you go to prison, that's totally, totally different. You are there with the hardest of the hard. I remember at one point I was in a cell with a lifer who was a heroin addict. Nothing could have prepared me for that. And she was going through withdrawals. And it was the scariest thing ever. And I just thought to myself, whoa, no, So all along the way, I had wake-up calls, all right? And then going back to what Rachel was saying about if somebody has cancer, yes, drug addiction is a disease, just like cancer. But at some point, and I came across the situation the other day where a friend of mine had to cut somebody off and do tough love with somebody who had cancer because they were in, and I know it sounds shocking, they were in treatment, they got homesick, and they came back home, and they just wanted to be in that emotional whirlwind. It was like, you went to get a drink of water, and they were like, oh, but I have cancer. It was like, but you're not doing anything for it. You're not willing to make the changes that you have to overcome it. So that's where I really say that, in that case, the family had to say, well, if you're not going to do anything, then we can't support you in this emotional whirlwind. And so for me, that's what tough love and hitting rock bottom means. Sometimes if someone is put into prison, if they have an addiction, it absolutely does work. It absolutely does. I mean, if in my case, I was put in with these hardcore people, I didn't want to do that. Going to prison one time was good enough for me. I don't ever want to go back.
And, it's interesting because this brings us to the point. Another question is when we talk about dual diagnosis, which means that there's something else going on. I mean, you've got people who are obviously addiction being a disease, they're addicted, but then you have people who are dealing with maybe being bipolar and self-medicating themselves, or they're they've got OCD and they're just compulsive and they can't stop, and they're schizophrenic or whatever they have. Now you've got a more serious problem and even a bigger dilemma, I think, with the tough love issue, because I think a lot of times these people are being treated as strictly as for addiction, and they're not taking the meds for the mental health issues, and the addiction takes over, but really the mental health issues have to be fixed first, so they would stop the addiction. Right. So it's really a tough place. So I'm going to ask Mark Thompson now. Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Have you dealt with patients with that, where it was probably the most difficult thing, the dual diagnosis of trying to treat an addict with co-occurring, mental disorders?
It's part and parcel with the treatment field. People who come in with multiple diagnoses, they have a tough road to hoe. Not only do they have to try and deal with their addiction, they have mood disorders, thought disorders, different kinds of disorders that dissuade them from getting treatment for their addiction. And so the question is, which came first, the addiction? Is that bringing on the mental illness, or did the mental illness bring on the addiction? And to my point of view, the answer is it doesn't matter. We have to treat both. We have to treat not just one more than the other. We have to treat them both as primary disorders, because the studies are clear, and from my own experience, I've seen it. You don't treat one, the other gets worse. And so if you can treat both of them concurrently, then the interventions you use with one can help with motivation and progress with the other. And that is something that generally needs to be addressed in a structured environment, where there are those boundaries, where there is some structure and some, for lack of a better term, tough love. Yes, you have to take your meds. Yes, you have to do it 3 times a day. Yes, you have to get out of bed. But it's been my experience that if they are willing to be directable, it has benefit. It may take a while, and there might be some pain and discomfort involved, but if they are internally motivated enough to do it, eventually people do get better. And if that motivation has to be generated externally at first, be it through mom, dad, court system, wife, whatever, so be it.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. I think what you're saying is really true. I just think that one of the main problems, if you have, say, let's use bipolar, for example. So we have someone who won't take their bipolar medicine, or maybe they're taking bipolar medicine, but it's not at work. It's not at the level that it's worn off. It's not working. They don't go back to the doctor. They go out and they're binging. They're doing drugs to medicate themselves. When we apply the tough love to that, then it gets a little tricky, right? So I wanted to ask Rachel about that. What are your thoughts, too, on that?
Well, yeah. One thing I wanted to piggyback on about jail, I believe in diversion programs, conversion programs. I don't think that people get well in jail. But what I think happens in jail, which sometimes even the greatest treatment team in the world can't accomplish, is while somebody's in jail, they're giving their brain time to heal. So, it's like a bullseye. And when somebody's using opiates and they're drinking and they're using benzos, and you're trying to give them a little bit of, maybe Lexapro over here, but it's like a bullseye and you're throwing 100 darts. So it's going to, knock the Lexapro right out. And what's going to target the receptors is going to be from the drugs and alcohol. So what happens, the good side or the upside, if there is any, about somebody who we just find treatment resistant, who ends up in jail for a while, is that, guess what? The transmitters get a chance to really heal because the drugs are no longer hijacking, all of that. So that's the upside for me with jail, and of course keeping them safe from themselves. But I also, we talked about rock bottom too, and rock bottom, believe it or not, doesn't always work either. I've had clients who have been in the most destitute, unbelievable situations. I've had a client come into detox after.
I think we can't hear you. Can you, we kind of lost you there with the sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Now, so I've had clients that have come and have been brought to a detox the day they overdosed, and had been worked on for hours and end up using the next day. So sometimes rock bottom, even to the depths of, you were just dead yesterday, sometimes it doesn't even matter to them.
Right.
So again, like I say, it's all individualized. But what's really important to know in treating clients is that if they have co-occurring mental health disorders, is that, like I was saying in the beginning, the drugs are targeting the same receptors. The drugs take over the serotonin, the dopamine, the norepinephrine. And those are things that we need to help them re-regulate. So it is a battle because, there's been damage to the receptors, and then you're trying, Lexapro is an SSRI, serotonin uptake inhibitor, so that they can start to hold serotonin a little longer in the receptors. But if they've been using, like Mark said, opiates for 10 years, those receptors are damaged. And, it's a hard fix. It's really a hard fix.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to ask Mark Astor right now, just a question I have on this with where we're going back to, the dual diagnosis and the mental illness. And I know legally it's, we've, as a country, we've gotten away from institutionalizing putting people in mental hospitals because of the horrors that happened in the past. Yet it seems to me that it's there's more of a thing to take an addict dual diagnosis to put them into a treatment center than there is to commit them. It's very hard to commit somebody, even for a short-term stay in a mental institute, into a hospital, a mental hospital, where maybe sometimes that's what they need more than first going to the addiction treatment. Maybe they need to go there first. What are your thoughts, Mark, on that legally?
So I think what Rachel probably tell you, right? Most of the time now, there's a co-occurring mental health issue going on, and sometimes there's a chicken and egg thing. You don't always know what came first, and sometimes
Right.
they had a mental health issue going on, so they started to self-medicate because they feel better,
Right.
or they got hooked on opioids for various reasons, and that caused them, an imbalance in the brain, and then so either way, you've got both things to do. I personally find, just from my experience, that when I'm filing the first petition for assessment and stabilization and detox, when I know there's a mental health issue going on, I like to put them in a hospital setting. It's the safest place for them. It's the safest place for everybody else. And because, you're in a hospital setting where you have a lot of medical doctors running around the place, right? I think probably it's the best setting for them because they can address that immediate need to get them stabilized from a mental, emotional, and mental perspective, right? Because once you sort of take that strong desire to self-medicate and feel better, and you can get them a little bit balanced, not only does it make the process easier from a legal perspective, but they start to feel a little bit better, and now they start to think a little bit more rationally, and they start to be a little bit more open to the idea of getting treatment. So when I get into court on the petition number 2, asking the court to send them, to a treatment facility of some type for, 30, 60, 90 days, they're a little bit more amenable to it than they had been initially when they were first court ordered to, say, a hospital to get stabilized.
Great. And thank you for explaining that. And this has been, I think it's a great amount of information for everybody today. We're actually at an hour right now, and I want to give everybody a chance to be able to, first I'm just going to look and see if there's any questions to close out and give your contact information. I would encourage everybody to go back to the broadcast and comment in the bottom of where your phone number, your email address, everything that we're gonna rotate now. I'm gonna rotate it out so we give everybody a chance to be able to tell us about, again, where we can reach you, because there's going to be, so many loved ones watching the show, so many people who are dealing with addiction who really need help. We get Addiction 911. We're just a resource. Our show, our podcast, our magazine, we're a resource. I get calls personally on my cell phone because I don't know how my cell phone is on the internet with the show. I've gotten calls in the middle of the night from people from all over the country asking me, I want to come to Florida, I need help, so I always put that in our group, our Florida Addiction Professionals Association group, and give you guys the lead. But it's heartbreaking for me because I'm not an addiction professional. I've actually had loved ones, who have dealt with addiction, but I've never, I'm not you. So that's why the purpose of this show is to merge you guys together. It's for people out there watching right now to say, you know what, these are really top-notch professionals here on this show who are ready and available to help. And how can we get in touch with you? So I'm going to start with Mark Thompson, and just tell us, Mark, where we can, how we can get in touch with you, your phone number, email address, the name again of the treatment facility. This way everybody knows how to get in touch with you.
Thank you, Christina. I'm the clinical director at Heartstone Recovery Center. It's in Lantana, and we answer our phones 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're in the business of helping the sick and suffering for the last 17 years right here, and our number is 561-586-3554. And you can contact me directly at mthompson@heartstonerecovery.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. Cece, tell us all about how to get in touch with you. Again, I did put your email address in the comments, but just tell us a little bit about the resource that you're providing everyone, and how you help, how you can help people with the legal ramifications after they get out of prison.
Okay, so my email address is cc, spelled out CECE, at ispeakinprisons.com. And if you send me an email, I will send you a free ebook, a quick guide on figuring out whether your record can be sealed, expunged, or pardoned. So I kind of deal with people on the back end after they've been straight for a while, in recovery for a while, and they want to get their criminal and arrest record cleaned up. But let me say this, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving any legal advice. All I'm doing is really talking about my experience and what have you. And if people start asking me legal questions, I always refer them to the lawyers. So it's just a quick guide.
So we've got your email address. And you want to give out a phone number or anything else for anybody to reach you, or just email is the best way to reach you?
Email's the best way. So cc@ispeakinprisons.com.
And definitely people take advantage of this, because this is a great resource that I have not seen a lot of that CC provides, to really help people who are dealing with that. When you're 16, 17 years old and you get a felony charge, and now you go to get a job, you're 28, you're clean, and now you still have that mark on you. So CC's the person who can help you with that. Thank you so much, Cece. So Mark Esther, just tell us how we can get in touch with you. What exactly, phone number, email address. This way, parents or people who are dealing with legal troubles now due to drug and alcohol can contact you and your firm.
Okay, so my phone number is 561-419-6095. That's 561-419-6095. My email address is Mark with a K, so it's MARK at, then Astor, ASTOR, lawfirm.com. So Mark at AstorLawFirm.com. And if that doesn't work, they can go to my website, which is drugandalcoholattorneys with an S.com. drugandalcoholattorneys.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all your expertise today, Mark. And Rachel, I'm going to also bring up Scott to talk. Rachel, tell us where everyone can get in touch with you. I know right now you're in Canada. Actually, I don't think everybody knows this, but Rachel's on vacation in Quebec. It was nice enough to join us from all the way from Quebec. Isn't that cool?
Montreal, yes. Yes.
Wonderful. So how do we get in touch with you, Rachel?
Okay. So again, I own Dynamic Recovery Center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. and Dynamic Counseling Center. Dynamic Counseling Center is outpatient, and Dynamic Recovery also really specializing in the LGBTQ community. And you can reach me. The admission line actually goes to me 24 hours a day, which is 754-999-0822. And you can certainly email me at Rachel, RACHEL, at dynamicrecoverycenter.com. And I want to thank you so much for Christina for having us on this show.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel, for your expertise today. So Scott, I know Karen's off on an emergency, but if you can just give us, her contact information for Inspirations for Youth and Family.
Yes, I would be very happy to do that. You can reach Karen's email at kctalkabout@aol.com. And for Inspirations for Youth and Families, our phone number, toll-free number is 855-240-6589. And website is inspirationsyouth.com.
Wonderful. Great. I want to thank everyone else here today. I'm just looking through the comments. Thank you, Grace, for your comments. Grace left a comment. You guys can read the comments here. Luna. Hello, Luna. Thanks for watching the show. And Kimberly and Mark Burns. And this is just wonderful. Our next show is going to be on July 13th. And we're going to dive a little bit deep into blaming the addict, which seems to be a societal thing where people are really feeling angry toward addicts. Is it a disease or is it a choice? And I want to get the professionals' opinions on this really loud and clear, because I encounter it all the time when I speak to people who are uneducated or just are very, hostile toward the fact that these addicts are doing this themselves and they're ruining everything, and they don't have an understanding of it to have that compassion. So I think we can educate people and help them to see the other side of it. Hopefully some of you will be joining us back on that show as well, and that'll be on July 13th. Well, thank you everyone so much from the Addiction 911 show. This again, we can listen to this on iTunes, on Podomatic, and it's going to be shared all over social media and on our blog at addiction911blog.com. And I encourage all the panelists again to go into the comments and tag yourselves, put your phone numbers, information. This way these can easily watch this back or just click on the links and message you and get the information that they need. So thanks again, everyone. It was wonderful seeing everybody today. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.